afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Clayton State University virtual alumni panel series on being your own boss. We appreciate everyone being here today. My name is Michael Little, and I am the Director of Alumni Engagement and Annual Giving for Clayton State. We have a great group of alumni panelists, all entrepreneurs who work directly with business owners, and I'm excited to turn the program over to them in just a moment. I first want to go over a couple of logistics. On your screen, you should see a box with a question on it for our Q&A section. If you have any questions during the panel, please feel free to send them our way. Our behind-the-scenes team will get as many of these to our moderator as we can before the end of our hour. If you don't have any questions, you will want to have the featured tab. Click to see any announcements. We are also recording this program and we'll post it on the Clayton State alumni page and on social media in the next couple of days. We will also be sending a survey for you to complete in the Q&A section as an announcement. We would really appreciate it if you would take a moment after the event to give us some feedback. With all that being said, I am now going to turn it over to our panel moderator, 2009 MBA alumna, Elisa Kirk, who is Area Director of the Small Business Development Center at Clayton State, for introductions and to get us started. Take it away, Elisa.
Thank you. I want to let you guys know first that I arranged for the sun to set in this window so it would look like I'm glowing. I don't glow all the time. I graduated in 2009 with an MBA from the College of Business at Clayton State, and it completely changed my whole outlook because I was suddenly qualified for jobs that I could have done. I just didn't have the credentials. With the MBA, I got a job as a business consultant for the Small Business Development Center. And then a few years later, I was able to become the director of the center at Clayton State. Our center at Clayton State provides no-cost, confidential consulting services to small business owners. So it's my privilege to be able to help small business owners with just about everything, including marketing, management, strategic planning, financial analysis. I help people get loans from banks, from other lenders. I help people sell their business, buy a business, and yes, we do help people start. So today's panel is going to be a panel that is comprised of Clayton State alums who also own a successful small business. And first of all, I think we want to give each of them a chance to introduce themselves. Michael, don't we? Give me a thumbs up if we do. Yes, we do. We want to give each of them a chance to introduce themselves and tell you just a little bit about what business they own and what their business does. I'm going to start with Ashley. We're going to go alphabetically. Ashley, Bandy, would you step in? Ashley, you're muted.
Okay. All right. I'm Ashley. I'm the owner of Crown Me Clean. We specialize in eco-friendly residential and commercial cleaning services in and around the Atlanta area.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Next, by last name, alphabetical, is Sue Ann Hollowell.
Hi, my name is Sue Ann Hollowell. Very excited to be here today. I'm CEO of my company, Optical Care Inc. We're an affordable contact lens subscription box. So if you're looking for a way to get contacts more affordably, we're definitely your go-to.
Okay, thank you. And last but certainly not least is Jock Terrell.
Hey guys, my name is Jacques Terrell. I graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's in information technology. And while I was at Clayton State, I took this awesome class that stood out to me the most. It was an Android developers class. And I never forgot the professor or what I learned in that class. And from there, I was able to, that same year, I started my business, Zenlight Technologies. And I used that business to contract out my services to small and large companies, and also use it to develop some of my own personal applications.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to try to give you a little bit of an overview today about what it would take to start and run a successful small business. You know, in 45 minutes, we can't tell you everything you ever wanted to know, but we've got 3 very experienced people here who are going to give you their best hints and their best tips. And we're going to try to cover most of the basic areas of owning and running a business. So I want to start out with a question that they had to get started somewhere. I don't think they started out day one as successful as they are now. So what I want to know, I want to go down the row and ask each of them, what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you started? And I'm going to start with Jock.
I would say the one thing I wish I knew then that I know now was at the beginning, I didn't understand just how much effort it was going to take to make my business work. I thought it was one of those things to where I know what I'm doing, it's gonna work, I'm gonna put in some time, and a month or 2 later, I'm gonna see some profit. And it was over a year before I saw any profit. And so just making sure I have the right mindset to prepare myself and know what it's going to take would probably be one of the things I would change if I could.
All right, thank you. And we're going to go next to Ashley. Ashley, what's one thing you know now that you wish you'd known when you started and you can pass on? Someone keeps muting me. Michael, you did it. Sue Ann, I'm sorry. We seem to have some interference in the background. We apologize for that. I don't know how much of Ashley, did we all hear Ashley? Panelists, we did not hear her. Ashley, we're going to try to come back to you and we'll see if whatever happened goes away. Sue Ann, what is one thing you know now that you wish you'd known then?
I would definitely say, kind of similar to Jock, sometimes you don't know how much work it's really going to take to get your business off the ground. So I would definitely say keeping your day job until you build up that business enough. So then your side business can then take over your bills and expenses, because it's a lot of pressure on a business if you're trying to pay bills and build up a brand new business. So definitely keep your day job as long as possible.
Good advice. Okay, Ashley, let's go back to you. Let's see if we can get past whatever that was. We'll try one more time.
Okay, so I agree with both of what they said, 100%. But one of the things that I wish that I had when I started was the power of social media, because I didn't have social media to market. Facebook was popular, but we didn't have Instagram. So I definitely wish that, there was much more free marketing.
Thank you. Okay, so you want to start a business. You've just gotten a piece of advice about what they would tell you they wish they'd known. Let's talk about money. There's an old saying that however much money you think you're going to need, get more. So I want to go with each of them and ask them what is the advice they would give someone who's trying to figure out how much money they need and where are they going to get it. So that's a 2-part question, and it's kind of a complicated question, but I want to start back with Ashley. Ashley, what advice would you give someone who wants to know how much money they're going to need and where they should look to get it?
Well, I would first say you're going to have to start with yourself. You're going to, have to put forth your own investment, because no one's gonna just want to give you money to start a business unless you've proven that it's worth my own investment. So you definitely need to be able to finance that, whether that's getting an extra source of income or keeping your full-time job. Like you need steady streams of income to even think about starting a business, because you're going to go through slow phases, slow periods. So definitely start with your own savings.
Okay, thank you. Sue Ann, I saw you nodding while she was talking. What do you have to add?
Well, I would definitely agree where, it's going to be bootstrapped at the very beginning and you really have to put in your own money to get started. But with that being said, there are a lot of new resources out there. For my business, we initially bootstrapped, we established our website. We had like a homemade box, but then we actually got into Comcast, the Farm Accelerator. An accelerator is like a program, it's like a 3 to 4 month program, and they'll actually invest in your business, and then in exchange you're giving equity. So it's fantastic. Not only do you get funding resources, but also you get fantastic mentorship on how to get your business going. So for us, it was a mixture of bootstrapping our business initially, and then being able to do accelerators to get that funding to really get the business going.
And I will add on to this, Sue Ann. How did you find that accelerator?
Yeah, there's a couple of websites that you can go to. There's one that's gus.com and then F6S. And there they have a list of all these different applications that you can fill out. So the basic things that you would need first, of course, is like a PowerPoint presentation, which they call the pitch deck, which is just information about your business. And sometimes they even ask for a business plan. So they want to make sure that you really thought it through. And then you go through once you fill out your application, they'll interview you, sometimes in person, sometimes over the computer, and then they'll select a certain cohort. So this cohort usually is about 10 businesses. And, it's a fantastic experience. And that was a great way for us to kind of grow our business when we didn't have the resources.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Jock. Not only where to find money, but how did you know how much money you'd need? What process did you go through?
I'm going to say that Damon John has a term. He wrote a book. It's called The Power of Broke. And that definitely defined where I was at that time. So it wasn't really hard for me to figure out how much I had, because I didn't have much. So, but what I did know was I knew how to say, okay, I don't have much, but I know where I want to go. How do I use the tools that I have at my disposal to get there? And from doing that, I came up with a plan. And I knew that I wanted to program. I had an old computer. It wasn't great, but it was good enough. And I needed to learn the particular languages. And there was a public library down the street. So I used all the tools that I had at my disposal to continue with the momentum that I wanted to have in my business. And from doing that, I was able to build experience. And my whole idea was, no matter how bad I am now, if I continue to study and get better every day, eventually I'll be great. And once I'm great at what I do, people will come to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna go back to you, because the next question is about business plans. There is a lot of there are a lot of different answers when you ask if someone has or needs a business plan. A lot of times you write one in business school and you put it in a drawer and you don't see it again. Sometimes to start a business, people write a plan and then none of that happens and they put it away and do what it takes to make the business work. I'm going to ask each of you, did you have a plan? Do you have a plan? And what would you advise someone about what they need in terms of a plan? And Jacques, since you brought it up, I'm going back to you.
Okie dokie. So I'm going to say that with my business, I don't have investors. And so you might ask, well, if you don't have investors or need them, why would you need a business plan? And I'll say to you this: there's a lot of power in writing down your visions and where you want to go and where you want to take your business. You take it and you make it tangible. And so the first thing I had to do was identify what it was that I wanted out of Android development. Why was I doing what I was doing? And if I can't answer those questions to myself, then whatever I'm going to do is going to it's not going to go far. I'm going to run out of steam. And that quote unquote business plan is something that I look at at a day-to-day basis. What am I doing today? And is it in line with those ideals that I wrote down some time ago?
And how often do you revisit this?
I revisit it, if not every day, every other day. I think you have a lot of momentum when you're starting out, but once you start picking up a little steam, sometimes it's hard to continue with that same motivation when you started. And so to make sure you don't get off track, or if you do, to have a compass that navigate you in the right direction, that document that you wrote down, it means a lot.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next about the business plan, Sue Ann. Do you have a plan? Did you have a plan? What do you advise?
So this is a very good question. The first thing we did was this concept called Lean Canvas, which is like a high level business plan without, having like 10 pages of business, 10 pages of writing out an official business plan, because we kind of wanted something high level. The next thing we created was like a pitch deck, because in order to get into like accelerators, you got to have that. It wasn't until we started talking to investors and then talking to small business loans like ACE loans that they really wanted you to have that business plan. So we actually met with the SBDC and we kind of sat down and went through the template of what a business plan looks like. And that's when I went through everything. And what's great about writing everything down is you really start to see the holes in the business, like the things that you really haven't thought about. So now you can really flush out your vision.
Okay, thank you. And notice that she put in a plug for the SBDC. I just wanted to point that out in case anyone missed it. Thanks, Sue Ann. And Ashley, tell us your opinion of business plans and how you use them.
Well, sort of how your description. I started out with my business plan in school, and it was a requirement to write out a business plan. And I did it for Crown Me Clean. So while I was starting my business, I was a student. And so that was the motivation behind it. However, I didn't follow the plan to a T. And I really, sometimes I go back and look at it to see how far I've come, but I haven't updated it. I think I want to try professional, service to get it up to speed.
Okay. Do you do any kind of strategic planning for your business? You may not have a written business plan, but do you go through a planning process from time to time?
Yes, every year. I mean, I do a lot of reflecting as far as owning this company, and especially going from being self-employed to an employer, you can't just wing it. So I definitely, have strategies and things that I'm constantly working on, but is it updated in that business plan? Not at the moment.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Everybody has their own process, and let me add about business plans. One of the things that they tell you to do traditionally, if you're thinking of starting a business, is to go write a plan. I don't like that advice. I want you to wait until you know what it is, because what's gonna happen to you is what happened to Ashley. You do something and then you stick it in a drawer and it doesn't apply because the world changes after you write it. So a plan should be a living thing that adapts as you do. And I think each of you have described how you use planning in your business, and that's what you use it for. It adapts. Next question, we've talked about business plans, we've talked about finances. I want to talk a little bit about marketing. Marketing, including finding customers, keeping customers, making sales. I want to go through each of you and ask you, what has been your most successful marketing tactic? Knowing, and I'll caution the audience, it's not going to be the same thing for any two people. But for what you guys sell, what's been your most successful marketing tactic? And sales could be part of that. So we're going to start with Ashley. Okay, we're going to go to Sue Ann and try to come back to Ashley.
So marketing is definitely a big part of our business. So we're direct to consumer. We have a subscription box. So the first thing customers want to know about us is what's in the box and what does it look like? So for us, we really wanted to get in touch with social media influencers. And that was our first way of getting customers. So we actually reached out to some people who reviewed boxes for like Hubble Contacts and our competitors. And we're like, hey, can you review our box? So we'll send them a free box and they'll actually do an unboxing video on YouTube. So now customers, they get that authentic experience with our box. And that's how we actually were able to get a lot of customers. And then engaging in like social media marketing. So Facebook and Instagram were fantastic for awareness for us, but then we realized that we weren't getting the conversion that we needed. So now what's really successful is Google AdWords, because most people, when it's time to buy contacts, they're looking for affordable contacts or contacts near me. So we noticed that when we advertise through Google, now we're getting more of a conversion.
Got it. And what is a conversion?
So that's when a customer actually goes to your website and makes a purchase.
Okay. Yeah, that is a big deal with especially digital marketing, that a lot of people may see the ad, but what you want them to do is physically do something, click on it, buy the thing, go all the way through to the point where you have money. Jock, what's your most successful marketing tactic?
Well, to properly answer that, I'm gonna go back to where it all started, and I'll tell you that at the beginning, you know, I thought it would be as easy as handing out some business cards for what it is I needed to do, and I quickly realized that you get out of your craft what you put into it, and I wasn't getting much. So from there, I was a blogger, and I wrote blogs on a day-to-day basis, and I realized that there was a market with my bloggers, and I probably cold emailed about 700 of them, just soliciting, building applications for them, not only building it for them, but doing it for free because I knew it would get me the experience that I needed to move forward in my career. And out of the 700 emails that I sent over a period of about 3 weeks, only 20 of them turned out to be something. But that really kind of set the foundation. That started, you know, my marketing, my business is a little different, you know, and being an Android developer. So that kind of got me in front of the right people. And from there, I was able to land certain contracts. So now the quality of my work is its own marketing, to where those people a lot of times will contact me again to work with me. And also, if it's not them, that somebody else will contact me from seeing my resume out and about. They contact me, so I don't have to go and send 700 emails anymore.
But you learn so much from doing that.
Yes,
thank you. Ashley, can we try you one more time?
All right. So my favorite marketing tactic is, for my business, word of mouth has been extremely powerful. When I started, there wasn't a lot of social media marketing going on. So it took grassroots marketing. I went on foot, I hit neighborhoods, I put flyers out, we did door hangers. And from there, you know, I just built a clientele, and then it just you know, people would refer. So we started getting bigger jobs through referrals and Google AdWords we tried. But I would say one of sort of a competitive edge for me was taking the time to go and give accurate pricing and quotes. So I didn't just, when people would call, I would take the time to go in, see the job, give them a quote, walk through, and I almost closed, you know, I closed so many deals doing that. And a lot of people would say, you know, your price was higher, but we went with you because you didn't just throw out a quote over the phone. Like, you really wanted to see what the work was going to be like. So that was powerful for us, was going that extra mile.
And Ashley, a follow-up to that, How do you now encourage people to refer more? Do you do anything in particular to encourage referrals?
I don't do any loyalty programs or discounts or anything like that. And, you know, when I remember from other mentors and people that would coach me as I was coming up as a, you know, young entrepreneur, people would always tell me, you know, don't discount your work and don't do anything for free. So I never had loyalty programs and my prices were pretty competitive. But I think it was the personal connection and the accessibility of me that, you know, made those clients want to tell the next person.
I've heard there's an old saying that word of mouth only really helps if you're extremely good or extremely bad. People tend to share things they hated and share things they loved. So good job.
Thank you.
So let's go to the next question that is going to be a little more general. You guys are what we call successful. That means you're making a profit. That means you're supporting yourselves, and you remember to pay yourself. So tell us, what do you think makes a successful entrepreneur? What values or traits make up a successful entrepreneur, or what made you successful? I'm going to go to Jock first.
You know what? The thing I'll say that made me as successful as I am and got me where I'm going was just a quote unquote, really just an obsession with being the best version of myself that I can be. And what I would do is every day I wake up, you know, I tell God, you know, thank you for giving me one more day to take a step forward, even if it's just one step. But I ask myself, who am I trying to be in the future? And what would he do today in this particular situation? And I work to do those things that person would do. And that's how I become that person. Otherwise, you know, I won't be the person I want to be, and I'll end up making excuses. And so I would say that the daily habit of just having that mindset to where no matter how successful I was yesterday, that was yesterday. Today's a different day. And on the flip side, if I was not successful yesterday, then today's still a different day. So there's a quote that I always tell myself, and that's victory is won daily. And so I have to be victorious every single day, not last week or last month, but today and tomorrow as well.
Thank you. That was an awesome answer. I'd like to just end it there. That was beautiful. Thank you. Okay, next let's go to Ashley. Ashley, what makes a successful entrepreneur? Oh no, sorry. Okay, Sue Ann.
Okay, Jock said it so beautifully. Mine won't be as eloquent, but I would definitely say persistence and grit. It's very tough to be an entrepreneur. There's no one pushing you. There's no one saying, hey, you got to get up and you got to do this. You're very self-motivated. So like Jock mentioned, you know, you have to keep pushing yourself every single day. And then also you have to have adaptability. You have to know when to pivot and when to change. If your customers are asking for something different, you got to be able to take that feedback and make the changes to your business. And especially with COVID, you know, with the pandemic happening now, there's ways that you have to change how you get customers. What do you do for those customers? I know for us, we used to cover an in-store eye exam, but now we had to change that because a lot of eye care clinics were actually shut down. So now we offer a free online vision test on our website. So you definitely have to keep changing with the times and adapting your business.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Ashley, we're going to try again.
Okay. So in order to, well, I guess you said, how did I know I was successful, or?
Yeah, and what makes a successful entrepreneur?
What makes you a successful entrepreneur is, I think when I realized, like, if I couldn't do what I was doing, I was like, I'd be unhappy. You know, I'd be miserable if I couldn't do what I was doing. So you know, you have to have perseverance. It took me 5 years. I was ready to quit before I was really like, I had my big break, you know? So you have to work hard. It's especially hard, and you have to also prepare yourself to miss out on a lot, on a social life sometimes, on a love life. If you have kids, you're not going to have a set schedule. I go to bed typing emails and I wake up reading emails, so it's a 24/7 ordeal. But I wouldn't trade it.
All right, thank you. I've got a few more questions, but before I do, I want to talk to the attendees. I want to let you know we're going to be taking questions. Would you please type them into the chat if you have any? Michael is monitoring the chat, and if you have a question for any or all of these guys, please type it into the chat box, and you will find that somewhere on your screen, depending on what screen you're looking at. But there's a chat box. Look for one called chat. Type your questions in, and then Michael will make sure that we get those questions. Whatever questions we don't get answered on air, if there are too many, we will make sure that we give you the answers. We'll get you those in writing. But anyway, type in your chat questions if you have them, and I'm going to ask another question of you guys. All of the alumni that are here, or no, not all, some of the alumni that are here are genuinely thinking of starting a business. Give them the best piece of advice you can come up with. And I'm going to start with, let's go back to Ashley, because we're having success with Ashley right now.
Best piece of advice is, you have to take a leap of faith. Go for it. If you have a day job and you feel like this is holding me back from my dreams, then you have to take a leap of faith and just go with your gut instinct and work hard, and be prepared.
Thank you. And Sue Ann.
That's actually a very good question. I would definitely say keeping your day job is important, because sometimes it really depends on the type of business that you have. But if it's possible for you to build your business on the side, it relieves so much pressure, because when you're having to pay bills and you're trying to push the business to generate revenue, sometimes it may not be the right business model. Sometimes you need to experiment with the business. So I would definitely say that, and also seek out funding. There's a lot of resources out there now, like accelerators, that are specifically to help businesses get started. So you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do this by yourself and try to figure out or reinvent the wheel all over again. There's accelerators out there that offers fantastic mentorship to help you get started.
Thank you. All right, Jock.
The one thing that I would say that the other two awesome people here haven't said, and just to add on to what they've said, is the most valuable thing that you do have, even though even if you have no funding, you have time, and that is something that is your most precious commodity. And so I would say you have to value every second of every single day. You have to allocate what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. There should be no drifting throughout the day, and your 24-hour schedule is a blueprint of where you're going to be in the future. And so success won't be an accident. It'll be a result of what you've been doing. And so, and I'll tell you, this is something I tell some of the people that I help, is that if I spend 24 hours with you and I don't get the impression that, man, if I don't know what it is you're trying to do or what you want to do, then if something's wrong, because you should exude it. You should live it, and you should breathe it. And you have to take advantage of as much time of the day as you can. Maybe it means not sleeping 10 hours. Maybe you have to sleep 6. And there's something that somebody said a little bit earlier. I think it may have been Ashley, but the word was sacrifice. And so inside of that, you will have to sacrifice things. And so in doing so, you guarantee that maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you will be successful.
Thank you. I want to say to the audience before we go further, do you see something in common from these three entrepreneurs? Do you see a positive outlook? Do you see how they kept going no matter what? Do you see how they're saying it's not all going to be easy, but you got to keep on? One thing I see in a lot of entrepreneurs that come through my office, and I can tell when they're getting ready to start a business, the ones that are the most determined, not only that it's going to work, but that they're going to work hard to make it work, those are the ones who usually do. I want to ask a question. Before I go, I'm looking at Michael. Thumbs up. Do you want me to ask more questions, or do we have questions to answer? Thumbs up if you want me to ask more. No. Okay, he's got questions for us. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Michael. Not turning it over.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, everyone. So we've got some questions from the audience, and one of them is sort of logistical, but I think it's incredibly important to make sure that we get those answered. And one of them is related to registering for an LLC and registering with the state. Some of these paperwork items that that have to be done. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like and what that process is for? And so I'm going to start with Sue Ann.
Okay, yeah, that's a very important question. The first thing we did, we registered as an LLC with the state of Georgia, and that's it's a pretty simple process. You go to the Secretary of State, and that's where you can sign up to become an LLC. In your local county, that's where you get your business license. So for instance, I went to Rockdale County just to the office and was able to get a business license. One thing to point out, though, is if you're raising money with investors, they have a preference that you be a Delaware corporation. So we actually had to transition from being an LLC to then being a corporation, being incorporated in Delaware.
Let me jump in, if you don't mind, Michael. Okay, thank you. Sue Ann is right. Before you go and run out and get your LLC, have a little bit of an idea what it is you want to do and what your funding is going to be. The things that go into determining whether or not to get an LLC or a corporation or where to do that or how to do that, you'll want to talk to your CPA about your taxes and see if they have a preference. You'll also want to think about if you're going to hire employees, because some of the formations are easier to handle employees or not. And again, like Sue Ann said, you want to do your funding. You want to think about your funding. I think I've frozen on the screen. If you can hear me, I'll go on. Make sure you get the Secretary of State thing done before you go on to getting your EIN from the IRS next, and then get your business license in that order. The Secretary of State filing becomes your legal name. The EIN becomes your legal number, and then everything else flows from there. But if you do other things first and then you can't get the name or you don't have the number, you can go back and undo a lot of things. So do them in those orders.
Okay, thank you, Elisa. Jock, do you want to jump in and talk about what kind of the paperwork that is involved in starting a business and everything else?
Alrighty. Well, for myself and being an Android developer, the main thing that I wanted to do, I realized that I didn't need an LLC. I was a sole proprietor. But the main thing I wanted to do is I wanted to protect the name of my business. And so the first thing I did was to go through the process of trademarking my business name. That way, when I got out there and I was using it, then, it would be 100% my own. And so that process was, honestly, it was just as simple as going to the government website and putting down the proper information and making the purchase. And then I will tell you this, after that, just letting it exist out there in the ether and hoping that everything goes well. And when it did, and you get the documentation in the mail and you're looking at that, and it's something that you thought of, it's something that you created from within yourself, and it's something that's tangible and that you can hang on the wall. And that's one of the things that no matter what I do, that first trademark that I got, I'm so proud of it, because it was something that I could have just looked at and disregarded or didn't do it because it seems so simple, but it means a lot to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I'm going to ask of the alumni panelists, just kind of raise your hand. I know the audience can't see this, but raise your hand if you had a day job while you were starting your own business. All three of them raised their hand. So Ashley, I'm going to go to you to talk about what it was like having to balance having a day job while also getting your business off the ground. Oh. I think Ashley is having the sound issues again. Sue-Ann, I'm going to jump over to you, and then we'll come back to Ashley and see if we can't get that answered. So Sue-Ann, what was it like to balance that day job?
It was a challenge. I would definitely say so, especially when you're first starting out with your business. You're so excited to get it going, and you want to spend like all the time. You want to spend all your days just focusing on this business and growing it. So for me, it was a challenge because when you're at work, you're just like, I could be working on my business. But it comes back to my point of saying that if you have a day job, you really have the time to experiment with your business and not have to make a profit as soon as possible. So it's a necessary evil, I would definitely say.
I can imagine it being difficult to balance all of that. Actually, let's try that one more time. I'm gonna go over to you and see if you want to talk about how balancing a day job and running a business is.
So yes, I did have a part-time day job in the early phases of starting Crown Me Clean, and I worked part-time. So the days where I had my day job, I didn't take clients or anything like that, and then I pretty much structured a clientele around those days that I worked. And then once I started booming, I didn't need the day job anymore. But I always say try to keep a steady stream.
Yeah, absolutely. And so another question that we got from the audience is, was there lack of support from your peers, and how did you deal? And I think that's a great question. And it's not just support from your peers. I don't know about if it's support from your family or support from others that are friends, that are people that are close to you. And how did you go about dealing with any lack of support that you might have felt? And I'm going to start off by asking that of you, Jock.
I want to say there was definitely, I had support, but I had
It looks like Jock may have frozen on us. So I'm going to go over to Sue-Ann. Sue-Ann, tell me about any lack of support that you might have felt.
I would definitely say that I've had the support of my friends. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a teenager, so they kind of knew what the deal was with that. My parents are a little less supportive, especially when you're going to school and you're getting a college degree. They're kind of like, I want you to go to work and actually use that college degree. So for me, it was always the challenge of trying to explain to your parents what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do. And you're like, I'm trying to build this thing. But, sometimes parents want you to go the traditional route and get a job. So me and my mom still have the same conversation.
I can imagine that being difficult at times. But Ashley, let's go over to you. Have you felt any pushback from anybody close to you at any point in time?
Most definitely, people have been unsupported, and you really have to not care, because you, as an entrepreneur, you see something or you're creating something that hasn't really been done or hasn't really happened. That's sort of what entrepreneurship is. So, you kind of have to learn to tune out the negativity and just be prepared, because everyone's not going to root for you, but you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to be. Your mom, people will not support you. And that just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jock, I think Jock is back and wants to jump back in with his comments.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that a lot of times when you do something that's against what people call conventional wisdom, what you'll find is that majority of people will be against you. And a lot of times I see it as you're in uncharted territories and you're about to do something amazing. And when I was at Clayton, I landed this really successful internship, and everyone told me I should have it. It was a salary position, and I thought I had made it. And when I got there, I realized that I just didn't identify with it. And I went from there, and I decided I wanted to take a year off of doing any work or making any money in programming. And a lot of people in my family and my friends thought I was crazy. They thought I was going backwards, which a lot of people would think that of you. And I knew within myself that for the first time I was doing something that I wanted to do and not what everyone told me I should do. And luckily, I had a supporting wife who also felt the same.
That always helps. We've got another question about employees. So I'm going to do another raise the hand that other folks can't see. Do you have any employees that work for you besides yourself? Raise your hand, yes or no. I see a couple of hands raised. So I'm going to go to Sue Ann first. Can you talk about, number one, how many employees do you have working for you, and how did you make the decision to start growing, whether it's 1 or 3 or however many? What went into your thought process about making that growth?
So we have a really small team. So we're not talking like 50 employees. It's like 3 of us. So a pretty small team. We have an optician on our team. With contact lenses, it is a medical device. So when someone signs up, we have to have a prescription. So we have an optician on our team to verify when those prescriptions come in to make sure they're correct. We are incorporated. So the reason why we wanted to make sure that I'm an employee as well as my business partner's employee, because we wanted to make sure that we had everything set up correctly for payroll. When you have a corporation, you can't just share the money in the account and you just take out money whenever you want to. Having a corporation set up and payroll allows you to be paid on a regular basis. Everything's accounted for. It really helps, especially when you're working with a bookkeeper and a CPA, and making sure that all your resources and finances are set up correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. We've got another question from the audience asking if did you have a tax and sales number before registering your business? And I'm actually going to ask this of Elisa to see kind of what she's seen, and maybe if she has any recommendations for folks that are looking to start their business but just haven't gotten there yet.
You need to get the tax numbers and the sales tax numbers after you register your business, unless you're going to be a sole proprietor. It's better to do it that way, because there again, registering your business means that name will be legally yours. If the name is taken when you go to register it, then you can't have that name legally, but you might have everything else set up in that name. If you are going to sell products to the end user, you're going to need a sales tax number. If you're going to have employees, you're going to need to get the Department of Labor numbers so that you can withhold from their taxes. So there's all kinds of different numbers that you might need, and what you do and who you sell to are going to determine which ones. But I still say, if you're going to get the LLC or the corporation, do that first, and then get the EIN, which is the employer ID number. It's from the IRS, and even if you're not going to employ, that number takes the place of your Social Security number on legal documents, so you won't be putting your Social Security number on everything. Then you go and do the other things that you might need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great practical advice. Got a great question regarding something that's obviously relevant right now. How has COVID affected your business, and how have you adapted? And I see a couple of heads nodding over here. And Ashley, if you're okay, I'm going to go to you first. So again, how have you adapted with COVID-19 in terms of any impacts it's had on your business?
So COVID has had a huge impact on my business, because everyone is at home, and our commercial contracts were fitness centers. So we were hit hard But what I'm doing to stay ahead of the curve is trying to move into a different market, which is more construction jobs, so that we can still maintain social distancing, or, you know, be able to work, but work differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Sue Ann, how has COVID-19 affected your business, and what ways have you adapted?
Yeah, it definitely has had an impact. Our customers are regular subscribers, which means they're being charged on a monthly basis, and we're sending out a box on a regular basis. And the challenge was, you know, a lot of people have lost their jobs, you know, lost their employment, and which meant for us pausing a lot of our subscriptions, or a lot of customers having to cancel their subscriptions. Because we're a contact lens company, a lot of people just switched over to wearing glasses because they couldn't afford to keep paying for their contacts. So for us, you know, we definitely had to make that adjustment, and that's affected our revenue. But the way that we keep growing is through B2B partnerships. Right now, we're connecting with companies to serve as an employee benefit. So we're on employee benefit platforms like PerkSpot, Better Benefits, Affinity, as a way for employees who are still able to work, you know, they're able to get your contact lenses at a discount. So that's a way that we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. Oh, and one more thing, like I mentioned earlier, that we used to cover an in-store eye exam, but because a lot of clinics shut down, now we offer our online vision tests. So those are just a few things that, you know, we had to change due to COVID.
I know it's hard for people at an individual basis. We hear about small business impacts. You know, Elisa, with the work that you're doing with small businesses, I'm sure there's been an uptick. Talk about what you're seeing from the small business side.
Well, for a while, after when everyone first went home and they shut things down, we were helping people with the emergency funds, the emergency loans, the PPP, if you've heard of that. We were helping people with unemployment for themselves and their employees. There were certain steps they had to take to make sure their employees got the extra benefits from the CARES Act. So we helped with that for a while. That's kind of fizzled out. But what we're seeing now is a lot more people trying to start businesses because they either lost their job, or they don't want to go back to their job, or they're finding their children at home and they never anticipated having kids at home. We're also seeing a lot more people trying to take advantage of low rates and opportunities in lending to purchase property for their business. So someone that was renting a storefront is thinking about buying a place. So I've had a lot of activity with people trying to expand and buy things. And then we've had a lot of pivoting, as you call it, and I hate that word. I've heard it every day. So however you want to call it, morphing is a good word. I think Jock will like that. That's more of a techie word. So we've seen a lot of people morph and try to say, how can I take what I did brick and mortar and put it online? Especially if you had a store. A lot of people had restaurants or some kind of food business, and people aren't coming in, even though they can. It's still reduced capacity, and some restaurants have such tiny margins that you can't have people come in and still make money unless it's full. So we've tried to help people. How do you go online with that? How do you make it easier? How do you develop an app or use app services so that people can go online and place an order and you take it to the curb? So there's a lot of changing, and we're seeing a lot of people trying to adjust. And of course, anyone that was B2B, which is selling, you're a business selling to a business, has had to worry about the industries you sell to and how damaged they are.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the CARES Act and PPE and all the other things that you know, small businesses might not have thought about. Obviously, not even a year ago or 8 months ago. We've talked a lot about you know, what are some difficulties or what are some things you had to overcome during your time if you didn't have support. But I want to flip that and ask each of you, leave everybody with a little bit of a positive momentum with this last question from the audience. Who are your biggest supporters? Is it friends? Is it family? Is it your coworkers? Who are your biggest supporters? And also, as a two-part question, what you know, where should the alumni or students who are looking to start their own business go to for support, and what words of support would you give to those students? And I'm going to start with Jock.
Okay, so That is a really easy question for me, and I mentioned it one time, but my wife was my biggest support, and you got to understand, I had already basically a job in corporate America, and decided to step away from that to not working at all really for a year, and she had to be the breadwinner. And I think a lot of people in that situation wouldn't have done what she did. And what she basically told me was, if you feel like this is a thing that you should do, I'm 100% behind you. Things are going to be tight for a little bit, but we'll get there. And so every bit along the way, she has been, she's been there just cheering me along, giving me advice when I need it, helping me out. And we've been able to be a really good duo and everything that I've done. And so, and I would say that, I've had some of my closest friends also supported me, and I'm very grateful for them. But as regarding where to go, if you're needing that support, one of the things that I do is I'm a part of a Facebook group. We talk about a lot of positivity. I'm a part of a Facebook group of tech guys that we get together and we talk about some of the troubles in the industry, and people are trying to start new apps, and we're there, we're uplifting them, we're supporting them. Some people are making relationships and networking. They're getting people that have the same vision that they do, and they're jumping on those projects with them. And when I started out, I didn't have any of that. I was alone. So with social media, there's so many avenues to find like-minded people who will support you, and who will create what we call a mastermind of ideas and intelligence, really.
Thanks for that. Ashley, where do you go for support or for mentorship? And what advice would you give to the audience about where to go for it? All right, so we're having the audio issues. I'm going to go to Sue-Ann, and then we'll come back to Ashley for that question. Sue-Ann?
Yeah, I would definitely say definitely my boyfriend. He's been extremely supportive, especially with a lot of the traveling that we had to do in the past. I did mention our first accelerator was in Atlanta, but I've also been to one in Baltimore. So having to just pick up and just kind of move for 5 months, that's a huge commitment. And he was there with me every step of the way. So, and he's always there when I need to bounce ideas off of him, and any changes that I want to talk about the business, he's always very supportive. So definitely him and a lot of friends have been extremely supportive and very encouraging when it comes to running this business, especially when things are especially challenging. Some words that I'd like to, say to the alumni out there is, this is something that you can do. Sometimes it seems like it's impossible to take this concept or this idea and turn it into something real. But, I just want to say that, sometimes you do have to kind of step out, take that leap of faith and try it and see what happens.
Thank you for that. Ashley, let's try and go back to you, and where do you get your support from, and what advice or support would you offer for alumni?
So hands down, my number one supporter is my 15-year-old son. He keeps me going. But also my friends, are super supportive. My clientele is supportive, and people that want to see me grow. Family members have been supportive. You just kind of got to take it when you can. But yeah, I've had, other entrepreneurs and strangers. Strangers are super supportive. I feel like some of the people that I know just on social media, they want to see me keep going for more, and so they're the ones that are kind of cheering me on. So sometimes you get your support from strangers. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you to all of our panelists. This has been such a great discussion. It's been enlightening, and I hope that it's been helpful for our alumni and our students and our guests. Panelists, if you'll take a minute to go into the Q&A and send over your website, as well as if you like your email address, so that way our audience can go out and get to know a little bit more about you. I do also want to offer a big thank you to our Assistant Director of Alumni and Annual Giving, Oscar Hopkins, for helping to make this event happen and getting through all the questions. If we were not able to get to your question this evening, please feel free to email us at alumni@clayton.edu. You can also continue to put those questions into the Q&A box. It's going to stay open after the event ends. But either way, we will get your question over to our panelists and try to get that answered back over to you. I'd also like to ask that if you are a Clayton State alumnus or alumni and enjoyed tonight's program, please help support us by becoming a member of the Alumni Association. Dues are $35 for the entire year, and that will help us bring opportunities and programs like this to you. You should see a link at some point soon in the Q&A section as an announcement. And finally, be on the lookout for our next alumni panel that will take place on September 23rd. And this one is going to be focused on something a little bit different, focusing on seeking a job in a virtual world. These folks have opened up their own business and gone out on their own. Some of you might be looking at that. You might just be looking at finding that next job. So definitely tune in for that. With all of that said, everyone, thank you and have a great evening.